I do a test button. I'm pushing this around people.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I really like this one. You can't really tell them. I don't know how. It was everybody together. And the part.
Hey, Chief. Hey, yeah. Hold up, let me. There's no stapler anymore. No. Yeah.
Okay.
Stapler right now. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I want to get a mix.
There's a little thing.
I think you can try. Here you go. The battery must be dead because that's when the light came on.
Okay. There we go.
At the back is a little one. David took a call from the chief and said he'll be back.
All right. Hey, ready?
That's just. Yes.
All right, I guess we'll start. David's talking to the chief, so he'll show up here in a minute, back in here in a minute, so we'll get started. Let me just run through this slideshow here and give everybody a little refresher, but kind of a precursor here. What we're trying to do this evening is to get this set up for a open house in February. We're wanting you all to we're not asking you to approve it, we're asking you if it's ready to go for public proceeding. So let me just run through this and then we'll open it up for discussion. But the agenda tonight is take a quick look at the process here on that chart. We have the revisions that we made today based on what you told us at the last meeting. Then any discussion of the draft that's appropriate. And then the key thing is that we'd like a recommendation from you all that this draft is ready to go for public review in February date. We haven't set the date yet, but we're anticipating this would be the open house. It's not the public hearing, it's the open house in February that we want to have. And of course, what we would need to do is, I mean, probably right after the first of the year, get it out on the website and all that, and get it ready to go. So that's the purpose of all this. Okay, so here we are. You can see the arrow there on the left. This is the meeting that we had set for the draft review, public release review, and then we have 3 more meetings. We are going to have an open house. The dates on these haven't been set, and it's kind of dependent on tonight. So you can have more work to do. And then we have a joint workshop, then we have a public hearing. So those are the 3 things, 3 meetings left to go. Okay, so the revisions are, we added some information. If you had a chance to look over the draft, they're all redlined or highlighted and struck out so you can see the changes that we've made. But we added the information about the STRs, or the question about that. I guess you look at the map, they're everywhere. So that you might want to know where they were concentrated. So if you look at that, this was the land use map. We did make a few adjustments on the land use. We added that part right there. We added some nodes, a little larger nodes there. We made that change. We added the little blue town center square there. We added that up there. We took a look at the population. This is how it's set up right now, but the reason for that is that 41% census is taken in April, and so that's why we have that. So what we did is we looked at another way to look at it. It was more of a typical occupancy rate of 90%. That now is that the state average we use? Okay, so this is the state average, and so we thought we would just use the state average and calculate that, and so so that is what we came up with in terms of this number. We can use that. We also noted that there are about 3,000 units that are in what we call entitled. So that means that they're either permitted or they have a planned development approval, which means they're vested. So we have those. And so anyway, we added this in there, and we also added a discussion in there about what the daytime population is. We're waiting on we're getting one more piece of information on ferry crossings, but we added the data in there on the daytime population, about 60,000. Now that doesn't include all the ones that could be in the motels, right? That actually be more.
So that estimate does.
Okay, so it doesn't, that does include the look. So that's an estimate of the daytime population. We also made the revisions on the food truck. Remember, we talked about having one on the beach, and then we decided we didn't want one on the beach. So that is addressed. We moved the proposed rotating camping area. We moved that. Remove the specific recommendations on the STRs, and then plan for retrofits on the sidewalks. We did make some map improvements as we went along, as we already mentioned, the nodes, the retail sites there, the connections. We did add 3 connections to the beach there. We made that adjustment, and then as well as the collector streets adjustments as well on the thoroughfare plan maps. Little connection between Allister and
Station.
yeah, Station.
11.
Yeah. And then we had these were the roads that have been around the area up there where the potential marina is, and so those are back on. We had them on, but then, we had a map that didn't have them on there, but they're back where they are. Then we had, some transportation recommendations, some joining the MPO. We have that in there, and the public-private partnerships. We had some crosswalks, and then the decel lanes on 361, we talked about that. New in there is the action plan, and these are the recommendations, and in there in the back, there's several pages where, it has, a chart where it has the goal and the relationship to the guiding principle, and then the actions, and the timeline, some preliminary implementation recommendations, and even just a general, cost of what it might, cost range might be on that. So that's in the last part of that. So, there was also some talk about some performance measures. And so, those were added in there. They're here, they're in your report as well, but, these were some things that could be, added if you wanted to look at what, kind of performance measures might be in there as we look at the plan. So that's just kind of a high level. We have the maps up here, we can go back to them, but, that's a high level of what was added in the plans, based on what we heard at the last meeting. And so, what we, would like to do is talk about any changes to the draft that you all feel that we need to make before we try to post this on the website for, public reviews. This is not approval. This is just getting it ready for the open house. But we want to make sure it says what it needs to say before we post it. And that's what tonight's all about. With all that said, does anybody want to, start, did we, first of all, I guess, did we get the ones we talked about, did we get those addressed in there, and then did we miss any, or do we need to add any more? That's where we are.
But I'll start. I like the whole package. I think it turned out great. Clear as he can, and I think it covers the topics that are most interested. Good. I did have 11 items though, that as I read through word by word, I want to talk through. So
Please.
Time to do that, I'll be happy to do that.
Yes, well, tonight's the night, and Erica's taking good notes, so not charge away. And
Well, maybe some others.
anybody else have any other opening comments though that they would like to make?
All right, guys, I'll start then. I broke down the page number than the thing, so I don't know if there's a way to put that on the screen or how that would work.
Oh, on the document,
Get the document itself.
Not necessarily, but
So I can just call it
What?
out.
I just need to put it on the flash drive, just put it on that one, I don't put it on my computer. Yeah, I should. Yeah, okay. You take the flash drive.
So some of these are kind of small, and some of them are maybe a little bit larger than what we're talking about.
Okay, my that same screen. Got it. All right. So on that.
So the first one I had is on page 33. We have that figure 25 that shows the mixed use node. Again, you just put it up on the screen, and on that giant screen, it's been a lot more definition. But there's that one mixed use node on 361 that every version seems to move up and down the
We
page.
did, we've been moving, you're right, but I thought we moved it where it's supposed to go.
That's what I'm wondering, is it now at Cinnamon Shores? Is that where it is now? Is that where it's supposed to be?
I think so.
Because Because I noticed it had moved, on one of the pictures, it's moved up closer to Pioneer, and then another picture is moved down towards Cinnamon Shore. So I think it probably just needs to be in the same place on all the different charts.
It has moved.
So are both of those correct places for it to be? you think?
Well, the one that's closest to town, the one furthest north, that's a spot that's there today, so I don't think there's a change there. It's that other one where your hand is on the screen. Yeah, that one has seemed to move up and down the highway, but it's, I think we have it in different places. So if it's at Cinnamon Shore, that's where this shows. The picture you just had there a minute, so Dan had it closer towards Pioneer. So I think that's an item that'd be of interest to the people when they see it, in the open house.
Okay.
So we probably just need to decide.
Make sure of it.
Yeah, which is the spot, and then it needs to be that same spot.
Okay. Agreed.
What is the right spot? What spot did we say was the right spot?
I thought we said that it was Cinnamon Shores. We can ask Dave, but he was the one that said that it was already planned or
Right.
that's where it was gonna go.
That's right, Bob, was just across, or right there.
Yeah,
Cinnamon Shores
and-
North.
Yeah, that's what I would call, but when he comes back in here, we can ask him.
And,
Sure.
and that's to correspond with the new beach access road on the side. of
Yeah, I think so. I think that was the intent, but we'll make sure,
Right. And then
That's just a little more than-
Because I think last time that was mentioned, it was said, well, maybe it's gonna be somewhere else, but
Well,
Maybe it's a mobile home.
that's where the city has.
okay,
That's where it is.
well, it's, okay, we'll,
It looks like to the south.
we can fact check it today.
Yeah, so we just need to put it next, whatever it is, and then just need to stay there and all of it. Okay. Now on page 36, on figure 28, there's an explanation which I didn't understand. It said tourist overnight stays transitions to hotels. And I don't remember us ever talking about
That was your term, Eric.
that. It said tourist overnight stays transitions to hotel. I don't think that's what's gonna happen in our city. Yeah, so you see right there, it says,
Right,
then it's up to the next column. I don't remember us talking, because that won't happen. I don't know, I'm not sure.
You talked about it, that was a term that you,
so what Dan was going through in this presentation and the two different occupancy rates that we looked at. The first one is how we would typically calculate occupancy. The point of looking at this was. How do we know what population to plan infrastructure for other decisions?
or your comment.
We were trying to figure out how to address that. And so this option. You're right, it's probably not gonna transition where all the STRs just go away and move into their rental properties. But to get an idea of how many people are here on a regular basis, so our capacity for all of our single family homes, because they are single family structures or multi-family structures, and in theory, they could change over time, they may or may not always be short-term rentals. But so in this case, it's not necessarily that we're thinking that that's likely to happen, it's more of just trying to understand what is our regular population here and what should we have as a reference point for purposes.
That wording may
Yeah, Claire.
cause
Okay.
alarm.
Okay,
Right, you're not trying to say they do one thing and then change another. Sounds
okay,
Yeah, that may cause alarm, but don't have the benefit of all the different conversations, so I don't know if it's best to strike that term. I don't know what you want to do.
okay. No, we need to clarify it, we will.
I would say that's not good. That, when I read it, I thought, well, that means we're gonna move everybody from short-term rentals to hotel.
That's where it's at. Oh, we're getting rid of them.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
got it.
that's why I say that,
So,
that is
it'll
one
be-
unnecessary. alarm.
Sure.
Okay, back on that figure 28, but on page 37, which is the actual figure itself. So I just can't abide by the 2.12 persons per household for resort tourism. You have a line that says resort tourism right there. So you got the residential and 2.12 is the scientific thing, and that's fine. But resort tourism, there's no way that's right. So I just did my own scientific study of my neighborhood. My neighborhood has 49 SDRs. Some are 3-bedroom, some are 4, some are 5. There's a couple that are 6-bedroom.
Really?
So out of 49 houses in my subdivision that are STRs, 90 total, there's 49 are STRs. The occupancy, if I just add up the official occupancy that's allowed by the city, that's 484 people. So that's 10. And on the
10
weekend,
per unit.
10 per unit. On a weekend, it ain't 10. It's probably 1.5 times that. But I think that 2.12 needs to be 10.
How is that calculated?
Yeah.
Is that calculated
Used to.
yeah, by number of people that potentially occupy the house?
So the days, you know,
No, it's an average.
And it also is like per houses, I mean, some of them are just. Daughters, they don't kids.
Right.
That's just the two. And that's gonna be a good portion, especially if you look at the population, we're gonna break down, every population for instance, it's.
Right.
And
Well,
so,
But up in the, you see where it says the low density residential, that's 2.12.
right, so you just use it.
Yeah,
That's way good with those. It's just when it says the resort tourism.
Right, I see what you're saying.
That
Like, it
one-
shouldn't just be a fixed number. Each category probably has a different one.
That one line.
I want, but
Very understated.
yeah, I wonder how we should state that. So I don't have a problem with, I'm not arguing with you, but I'm agreeing with you. But I'm wondering how we change that in that square, in that box. And say, okay, somebody's gonna say, if we put 10 in there, somebody's gonna say, how do we get 10?
So here's what I would recommend.
Okay.
I did.
Or you already thought about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I did this based on my neighborhood, based on the official occupancy that was given to the person by the city of Fort Worth. You have to apply for a permit,
Okay,
and based on your bedrooms and your parking space and all that, you get a certain number. Well, I did it for my neighborhood. Dave can have his staff run that exact same thing for the 2,700 permits that's been issued. And you can say out of 2,700 permits, the official occupancy is 200 or 27,000 or 50,000.
We do that?
or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, it's different everywhere. I mean, I live in a R2 neighborhood. And it's me and my wife in my house, one guy across the street. The neighbors next door don't rent, they live in Corpus, so they're never there. The neighbors on the other side,
Right.
hold on, let me
Yeah, but-
finish. So the neighbors on the other side don't rent, they're never there. The neighbors across diagonal don't rent, they're never there. So I mean, my neighborhood's a rental neighborhood and it's less than 2.
Yeah, but go back to that chart up there, if you would, Erica. See, that's accounted for in this chart, Dave, because there's different classification of units.
No, he's saying he's in an R2.
I'm in a short-term rental
Do they
neighborhood.
have a short-term rental sign posted on their gate, on their front door?
No, but my neighborhood's short-term rental.
No, but this line is just for the well, this one says. How many units are there? Well, this is the short.
This is strictly registered units.
Yeah, that's what this line is. I'm just talking about this one line that says resort tourism.
Yeah, they have mixed use.
The other ones are, those others are other categories. So my house is just my wife and I, but I'm on a short-term rental, and so it's 2.12. We're at 2, right? So that's okay.
what are you saying?
But just a short-term rental number, we've got that data in the city. We know how many permits, we know how many, what the official occupancy is. Just do the math, and that's the.
And they're usually fully occupied.
So they're not just.
Plus, it's-
So I can,
My neighbor,
Yeah, to my-
all we're trying to do is get.
And Dan, is that an annual average or is that 3 months out of the year?
2.74, based on your 10 per house. That factor.
well, Yeah, I'm thinking back though, what's that figure 28 supposed to be used for? It's supposed to be.
I think that's what we need to define, what is it supposed to be used for?
If this is for the city to decide how many parking spaces we need and how our roads should be and how all these infrastructure things.
2.1 is likely.
I think if you say there's 100, if you say there's 100, well, that's what I'm saying. If you say there's 110 days a year, which is what the number I got from Life and Paradise, there's 110 days a year that are the big question is, okay?
And maybe.
Are we gonna assign these cities for this week? Because if we are, that's one experience. Or are we gonna assign the city for what the real load is for 110 days a year? We just have to decide, because if this is our planning document, we need to go into it eyes wide open. Knowing that a third of the year, the experience is not going to be what our visitors would expect, right? Our visitors don't say it's fun to take 3.5 hours to get across the fair. Haven't heard anybody say, no, never. When visitors leave my house, they never say, boy, it was great taking an hour and a half to get to the Park Road 22. Never heard anybody say that. So we just have to think about, what are we trying to use that?
At 110, 3.01, so it's definitely low. What are they using?
But like I say, though, that's the average. You know, where I grew up, I grew up in South Texas, so the creeks are all dry, but there's a creek not too far from my house. The average depth is about 1.5 foot, but people drown in there.
Okay, so
They don't,
if you get 1 day plus.
They don't have drown in average, right?
So even if you tripled it, right, it's just like 6, in my opinion, that's way crazy high. You're still looking at, what, 36,000 streets still.
That's significant.
108 days a year, add a little, at the most, and no one thing, but one of sort of savings that might increase the,
Well, I say, just to occupy, it really depends on what is the chart going to be used for. If it's going to be used for city people to come up with,
or is it just for our information or?
Well,
because a few years from now, when they say, how many people are on this island, it'd be nice to know.
well, the idea is that, to have this number, and then you can begin to respond to, okay, if it is this number, then what can we be doing with our infrastructure or fire police service or all the other things? So, but Eric was saying that the apples to apples is.
So that category, the resort tourism, all these categories on the left correspond to the categories on the map. So that tourism is all this pink area that we see in the south part. But whenever we look at the, sort of hard to tell a little on this map, but when we look at where the short-term rentals are, they're everywhere. They're not necessarily only in the southern part, but also this first map is the homestead exemption. So there are still homestead people, not necessarily only the short-term rentals. So if we looked at the occupancy for short-term rentals, that would give us part of the number, maybe, but not necessarily all of it, because it's not. That's not the only place where they are, and it's not only short-term rentals that are there.
Maybe the categories aren't right then for the purpose for attending.
Dan, re-educate me on, if you have that projected number too high, doesn't that impact the capital actions? You can impact fees. Growth rate is too high, then impact fees per unit.
Well, it can, but I think the way that Eddie Haas has set it up, it's kind of like a per unit. I don't think that we should worry about if it's gonna skew that too much. I don't think you should worry about that in this discussion. But I know what you're saying. If we have more, is it gonna raise the fee more?
Well, no, when we went over it last time, if I remember right, you over project the growth. The amount you can collect per impact fee as it goes down, so that the city we collect less. You don't wanna over predict your growth, because then you can't charge.
That's correct. That is correct. We don't want to try to overestimate. That's not good. It doesn't look good either, as well. So, but the 2.2, that's average all year. Your scenario, the 10 people there are only there during the summer.
But the information I have from the rental companies is there's 110 days. That are the days.
The 111 days we all talk about.
That, and everything gets booked out. Okay? So during those days, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then summer, and then holidays, sand fest, ends up to 100.
I don't know, yeah.
But if you think about it, says future land use. In the resort area, tourist areas, that isn't gonna be 2.12.
Well, could we,
Just not.
could we split it and say, okay, we could say, okay, here, this 2.2 would be all year.
I think we want to split one and have one that's the absolute peak busiest day of the year. What's the maximum that we can fit into all the short-term rentals at the busiest time of the season? Would that be helpful as the second table instead of using a more typical occupancy rate?
Yeah, because if you look at the multiplier here, just on this first figure. So it's 41% occupied times 2.12. So we've already discounted the occupancy by 60% of this chart. So you think about that 110 days, that's kind of like a third, not really 40%. But we've already discounted it on this chart by 60%.
Well, we start to simplify it. That's actually thinking is, could we say, okay, there's 365 days. And we know 111, if we say 111 is the maximum, which is 10, what's the average of that?
Right, but if you said it occupied, if you want to say it the yearly average, you could say 33% of the occupied units column, and you can make it. But you can make it, I say, 10 is,
The tourist is low.
yeah, 10 is my number, but the city has the exact number. They know the occupancy of what's the issue. That's not a mysterious thing.
So you're thinking the occupied units would be like a third to correspond with that 111 days, and then persons per household would be a lot higher to correspond with whatever the short-term rentals.
Well, I think it depends, I think it depends on what's the purpose of the chart. The purpose of the chart is to understand the infrastructure needed. Then for 110 days of the year, the infrastructure needed is way more than this. Now, if you want to say December 12th, that number is probably great, right? Or maybe that number is high. But it's just what do we want to use the chart for? It's for planning for the future for infrastructure, housing, transport, all the things we're doing. I just think it needs to be right. So if that means another chart that says the 110 busy days, these are the numbers. I'm good with that too, but then it gives our decision maker in the future
110.
something to work.
But I mean, even if it was used for planning purposes, it's still based on an average, right? So. I mean, yeah, it's a little low, but I don't know, it's, 10 per house or.
You have to plan.
I think it should be.
So the 110 is a third of the days, it's in roughly a third of the days in a year.
It does seem that it really skews ultimate capacity. It's way down, right, to 18,000, and that's just not accurate.
That doesn't make walking around sense.
You know,
There's not all this building going on for 18,000
right,
for the entire city.
So,
right.
so 111 days is 30% of the days a year. So if we did a weighted average and said, okay, for the 111 days, that's 10 people per unit or whatever it is, and then the rest of it's 2.12 for the rest of the days, and then average that out. That's what we use for the whole year, because the only other way to do it would be to do it for the 111 days.
Or you have a chart that's the 111 day chart, and you put the dates and data into that. And then you put a separate chart that is the 220, 240 day chart. And then you have here's what it looks like 2/3 of the year, and here's what it looks like 1/3. I think that would be an interesting chart for decision makers to use. Because what we've got here is we had a porterhouse, and we had a sirloin, and we had a fillet, and then we put it all and ground it up and we made meat. So, I don't think that's what we want, because in the 111 days, your occupancy is 41%.
No.
Bigger number.
No, but I think-
I don't know if
It's
it's
just trying to get a big
or
picture.
not.
I mean, that's what I'm guessing. Yeah. We're trying to get a big picture, rough ballpark. It's probably.
Okay, all right, well,
I think it's probably low by 4x. Because if you think about the 111 days, can you see there it says the occupied units is 41%? If that goes to what the real occupancy is for the 111 days.
Well, that 41% is full-time occupancy.
Right,
for the whole year.
That's what,
Yeah,
that's what I think.
so permanent resident.
Right, so even, okay, I'm just.
That's why, but that's, I think we probably should have two charts. One is, because we're trying to average things. If everybody flushes the toilet today, it's not gonna matter, in May where that thing goes, right?
But if it's 10, 1/3 of the year. That's like 3.33. That's the number they would have up there. 3.33 is 10
Right.
for 110 days. So 100, it's only gonna be a factor of we're 50%.
Right,
So if
here,
we change the 2 to 3, we're
Right.
really close to what it's gonna be if it's 100% capacity for 110 days of the year. You're like at 10,
3.0.
it would still be 3 point something. Their number.
well, but here's why I think you got it a little different. I think you got it wrong. You see the number right up here that says occupancy? So here's the future dwellings. They've discounted by 41%, saying it's only 41% occupied, 60% of the year it's zero.
It's already
It's,
there.
it's already been what do you call? Reduced by 60%. And then we make that 2.12. During those 110 days, that isn't 41%. Somebody knows that number is, I don't know off the top of my head, but I know in my neighborhood, it's about 100. And then you make that 10, these numbers change by 5x.
okay, I think he's on to something here. What we could do is, this number is right for 41%, but the remainder. For the 111 days, it's not. And so what we need to have is another one that uses a different percentage and or a different household size. And that's for the 111. And then that way you would know, okay, then that would be an average, and you could average these two together if you wanted to do that.
That's right. If you had the raw data with two charts,
But
you can average it after the fact, but if we average it now, it's lost.
what you're saying is it would be valuable for people to be able to say, okay, 111 days a year, we have really a lot of people here. And this is what, based on this, if we had a table just like that, but we filled it in with the numbers that we knew of, like 90% occupied. And if we could get some kind of an average per household that we could agree on, then we could use the same kind of table and say, here's what you are during the 111 days.
And that's this number here, Dave, the agreed upon number I think we should use is, what did the city authorize? And that number is gonna be low because people over.
So the question is, can we get that authorization number? Can we do it? Can we get it? Nicole's shaking her head, yes.
We should have it. We should know how many occupants can be in an STR that would be on the permit, wherever.
That's sort of an automatically use a lower number than what the city would allow, so if they put a maximum on there that might be lower than what our maximum allows them to be. And we have their maximum number, not necessarily ours. We don't let them go higher, obviously, but we let them self-regulate down lower, and a lot, you'd be surprised.
But if this was an ultimate, all we would need would be the max.
Right,
And that we can, and a lot of times they probably are, I say a lot of times they surely are low. not a lot of times, but times they are lower. They don't always have 10 units in there, 10 people in there. They'll have 8 or 6 or.
Yeah,
Or whatever.
based on what I know about all of the short-term rentals, I would say that if you took the maximum occupancy for all of the units and did an average, it would be somewhere around 7.
Okay, so that's what we're really looking for. So we can cite it in our numbers and say, okay, not saying your 10's wrong. I mean, not,
That's
but
my neighbor.
But what we're fishing for is if we can get a number like that and say, this is just the authorized occupancy based on what they're allowed. And we'll use that for the 110. And then that would at least get us another chart that somebody could look at and say, okay, here's, I think, Nicole, if we can get that.
Sure.
Okay,
Well, then it'd be based on real data.
okay, right.
It's not just
Yeah.
us guessing, it's the real data authorized. And then what was pointed out a moment ago by Eric is the resort tourism. And you go back to that picture that shows that thing, it's only for that area that's, it's basically south of 1A. Do you have that?
No. I mean, it would take a lot of effort to figure that out.
Maybe we just better get what we can get, and that's the
That's why I asked.
other number.
That's why I asked the question. If it's easy,
Yeah,
it's not.
so we'll get
I can't
that.
think of an easy way to do it. I might.
Should probably
yeah,
increase
do
the
it.
size of the disclaimer here.
Yeah.
That says it does not account for infrastructure demands, access, or potential changes in tourism. So it's saying in the end, it's.
Yeah, because it says that future drawings. While Dave's here, and you have that photo of, you were asking about the second PUD.
Oh,
Was
the
actually.
cinnamon. Oh, yes, we want-
Short, or was it supposed to be the access road?
Yeah, we want to check our location on the, we know where the retail node.
Yeah.
The first one's all right, but the second one there, is that in the right location? Is it Cinnamon Shores that we want that? Where the access road is? Do we have that correct?
Is that in fact where the new access road is going to be?
We don't know at the moment.
Sometimes it's on Royal
I have to assume that for this purpose, because that's what we have.
I mean, there's,
Not
I
on
thought there were additional notes in that.
Yeah, but they're on down. Go back to the other map. I think we had those right, but there was a question of whether we had this one right. Go to the one we had all circles, all 5 circles.
And so that's contemplating a node across the highway
Yeah,
from
that.
Cinnamon Shore?
It would incorporate all of that.
Both sides.
No, the nodes.
I mean, those really need to be really big dots. Because, I mean, they could shift up and down several hundred, 400, 500 feet. So I would say those dots need to be almost double that size. Because we don't have it pinned down. We know we want the nodes, but I mean, it's gonna be a result of future plating, how things get laid out by the PUD documents that drive that. Who's gonna give, who's gonna give up these, our little feeder roads, where if that owner's giving up the feeder roads, they're gonna have say in dictating where it funnels out on the highway. So there's a lot of factors that go into where those things are gonna end up. And I think the concept is that they're just kind of equally spaced down the highway. We're thinking of maybe ultimately having like 4 of these things, but we cannot pinpoint them down. Like that dot right there is probably, 400 foot. It needs to be like 800 foot. Because we just don't know.
Wouldn't it make more sense for it to really be centered where the access road is,
Yeah, I mean,
instead of in front of
Yeah.
Cinnamon Shore, which is already developed?
yeah, I mean, I think if we look at my original drawing, my node's probably twice that size. It just needs to be, they're really schematic and they need to be.
Off along instead of.
Yeah, it just. Do you understand, Dan? They're not to say that's where that road has to go or it's gonna go. It's just.
Well, we were
it's a
trying to,
concept.
I think we were trying to hit it where the access road was gonna.
Yeah, it does make more sense to be near the access road.
It'll be a little south.
So just move it down a little bit south.
If we just move right there.
Yep.
Can y'all see the little cursor?
Yeah,
What if we moved it there and made it bigger?
yeah, move it there and make them a little bit bigger. Because ultimately, they can shift around.
Okay. Thanks for getting that cleared up.
Uh,
Okay, so let us,
I know.
okay, so let us try to add the other chart and we'll have to get that out. We'll figure out at the end here how to do that and get it back to y'all.
So you're basically adding a seasonal chart.
Yeah, seasonal 111-day chart. Whatever we call it. Okay.
All right, on page 54 in LHC 8C. The goal is LHC 8C. There's a comment there about retrofitting sidewalks. And I know we talked about putting sidewalks in new neighborhoods. This one, I guess I'm still trying to think through how this is, because all the neighborhoods, the drainage is to the street. And I didn't understand about retrofitting sidewalks in existing neighborhoods since the drainage is to the street. I was trying to figure out what that really means. Or how that's supposed to work.
You'd have to fill in the drainage ditches, basically. In some places.
Yeah, so some places have guard ditches. My neighborhood doesn't have guard ditches, but the drainage is just to the street and the street has a lower thing, you know, so.
I think it would be like 11th Street if you were here in 2012 when we did 11th. It had bar ditches on both sides of it, and then we retrofitted it. We put a big 8x4 drainage box right down the middle, and then did a 8-foot hike and bike on one side. So we basically filled those bar ditches up and did a 8-foot hike and bike on one side and a 5-foot on the other side. So
So is this really just for major roads? That would make more sense than a neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, we might just say when a road is rebuilt. To take the opportunity to retrofit a sidewalk.
yeah, I think like a lot of like areas right in here, like in between Cutoff and G and this side of Allister, it's all these bar ditches. I know we just did Avenue A and C, we did a retrofit, where we did fill in bar ditches and did a hike and bike.
So even in neighborhoods, we're doing that?
If you would call this a neighborhood, I mean, it's not a, you know, this wasn't a. You know, trying to think of what subdivisions might have ditches.
Word that. Roads are rebuilt.
Well, over part, yeah, because it's.
Sidewalk, what about like Channel Vista? No sidewalks?
Well, just that one, yeah.
Right, so if you did a sidewalk retrofit there, I mean, you'd be in the, you know, you'd be in the city right away, there's no bar ditches there, but.
Well, I was just wondering, I think this is something that people might ask questions on in the meeting in February. So is there something more specific that we have in mind, or are people going to walk away like I was saying, we're gonna be putting sidewalks in neighborhoods? That doesn't seem like what we could, you know, really do.
It sounds like it was requested, but enough people wanted it. Reading that establishing process.
Yeah,
I never, nobody wants, I don't have any short minutes, nobody comes to my neighborhood.
I mean, we would want them everywhere, like in this area of town, not to be going into these, what we consider.
So should we reword that though? That, so the question here is that when you rebuild the streets, you look at the sidewalks. Sounds like that's what you do.
yeah,
But what if somebody says, well, does that mean that you're gonna add sidewalks and not redo the streets?
Yeah, cause the cost means you're gonna have to do less streets. For the added cost that it's gonna be to add sidewalks everywhere instead,
So,
it's a much slower process.
right, so we don't wanna imply. I
I mean, here, this right here is the exact thing that our current. Hike and bike pedestrian mobility plan is. It's a map of town. It identifies the high priority that are destination sidewalks for getting to school safely. for people getting around town. I mean, that's exactly what that number 8C is.
So,
It's-
but why don't we just change it to that wording then, it's, identify high priority pedestrian bike paths and put sidewalks.
I mean, isn't that kind of what it says? It says conduct a citywide sidewalk inventory. To identify where sidewalks do and do not exist and prioritize key areas, popular destination areas. With children and seniors missing sidewalks that would be appropriate for sidewalk installation.
But then the
Feels like
last,
you guys are saying the same thing.
the last sentence though, the one that throws.
Establish a process for residents to request sidewalk installation on their block. I mean, technically that already exists. You can. Go to council and beg for it or ask for it or.
I just don't know how I don't know how the drainage would work in the city if we put sidewalks and.
Two different areas.
I mean, that would probably, if they decided to develop sidewalk and part of the design phase to see how to affect drainage. It's not necessarily saying they're gonna put sidewalk there and, your yard can flood now.
But I mean, it would all be part of the process.
Okay, well, I don't think it's okay. Leave it.
So no change on that for right now?
It doesn't sound like it has to be, right? It's the
It's-
ask them to request installation.
Doing
And
it
it's still gonna, even if somebody does, it's still gonna have to follow their previous.
right, it sounds like that's what the process that is on the park plan, working through the park plan.
I'm kind of reading that as like if we all of a sudden have an area that gets really developed and starts to have a lot of people there. Or something gets changed, hurricane comes and we change it. And all of a sudden, it becomes a big traffic area, we might want to try and see about how we can improve sidewalks and drainage. So
So,
not just gonna be digging up roads. to do this.
right,
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's,
okay, all right.
All right, next on my list was page 69. There's just a word that's wrong on the golf cart second paragraph.
Hang on, 69, and it's on golf cart, second paragraph, golf carts, second paragraph, okay?
Yeah, see that word says used, should be used. That means.
Yes,
Page,
you are correct. I'm A plus,
I
because
read,
you read it,
I read every word.
that's
Dan.
good.
I read every word.
Yes, sir, I believe it.
Page 83. Figure 52. I couldn't tell on that figure if we were proposing a bike path along 361, or since that's considered the major arterial, if we were just saying that the design was gonna have that, that picture that had all the lanes and then the things on either side, I couldn't tell from the picture what we were proposing with that. See the yellow line up there, it says bike pedestrian corridor? And
Yeah.
it seems like that goes all the way down 361, which is a good idea, by the way. But I didn't know if we were proposing a bike path be built, or if that was when the road gets changed from the 3-lane to the artery, if that's when that would happen.
That's probably when it would happen. That's usually when that happens, is when it gets changed. And since there's bike lanes now, on the parts you do have, right? Pretty wide ones.
yeah, I think it's an
So,
8-foot
so,
sidewalk on 361.
so this would be a continuation. Because one of the sidewalks is wider. I mean, it's actually pretty wide. So, but the way this works is that when they come back in and they work on this, we want to get them to do a couple things, like Excel, we talked about this a little bit a lot last time, right? Because they're not gonna come in and do 6-lane, right? We talked about that. They're not gonna come in, but what we want them to do is do the sidewalks and the Excel, decel lanes and all that, and the median and all those things.
Well, that was my question. Are we proposing this document? The wide sidewalk ends right there. You see the second one that says access road?
Wait a minute.
I think that's one, access road 1, yeah.
So you're saying it ends here?
Yeah, that great.
But I thought it was already here.
It ends, it ends right there, but you see beyond there, further south where it's yellow, the key says that's a bike path that's gonna be put in.
I think you might be looking at the
I
slip
don't think so,
roads.
I think I'd rather read,
The green slip roads, like the frontage roads, those like.
because there's the yellow, and then the road's green.
Oh, okay, that's my mistake. So we're not proposing any bike path extension.
Yes, there,
No,
yeah,
no.
we are. It's in the, if you look at. I think this one here, which is the,
It says slip lane.
no, it's the 361 proposal that we show all the way down the island. It's the big,
So when
it's
the
the big
major,
cross section,
so when the major artery takes place, that's when we get the bike path.
that one.
That's right, that's
Right.
my question.
Yes, and the last two, and they've always come with a, we've always gotten them with, when TxDOT builds.
Okay, that's.
So because it's in our comp plan, we've always argued with them that, hey, guys, at least meet our comp plan and give us our hiking bike facilities. Which they've done.
works.
So we would get it, you know, as they build out south, we would get the benefit of them building our hiking bike plans.
Well, that was my question. Is there a separate bike path being proposed or is it part of the major artery?
Part of the major arterial.
Yes, that's right. Okay, page 84. On TFS 1A, in the second paragraph, it said the new city facilities would remain in Old Town. And I don't remember that we talked about that. Is that something we agreed on?
Which paragraph?
TFS
TSS
1A,
one, it's the bottom of the last one.
that second
It says it
paragraph.
recommended that any potential new location should remain in Old Town Port Aransas.
Yeah, is that something we discussed and agreed on, or is that something that was recommended by somebody?
I don't think it was. I think that was written before we had lengthy discussions on where it's Old Town. Because I had since gotten an emailed comment that, pointing out that the current city hall is not in Old Town, and so we made it to change that, but the intent being in the core of the city, maybe it's not Old Town. But yes.
I think we should, based on that, we should probably say in the core of the city, something like that.
As opposed to.
Would that be better?
Is that something so it's not at Old Town, so so it's page 84, TFS 1A, that's the paragraph I was looking at. So it's not in Old Town, so we're gonna strike that.
We need to strike that.
Yeah, so are we gonna agree on some other thing that we think they should be in? I thought we were gonna put a fire station out south of town at one time.
I think that was the second station.
I mean, is this specifically talking about City Hall?
Well,
The city hall civic center, yes.
Right, so it's, I mean, that comment is specifically for a City Hall Civic Center, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And library, yeah.
In library.
I mean, it would, yeah, I don't know if Old Town's the correct terminology, but it would be in the city core. I mean, is this, you know,
Well, let's change that for right, in order to get it ready to go in February, let's change it to the core of the city. Or we'll work on that word.
yeah, I agree.
That's just one. Okay, page 91, TFS 5D.
Yeah.
'91, 5D.
D is in dog.
Yes, dog. Added benefits on the visitors are, there must be like a word or something.
Added. Oh, that's.
Can you put that back up so I can read it? Oh, yeah. See,
The visitors
added-
are seen.
Added benefits are that visitors as seen as paying, there's something.
Visitors are seen as.
Are seen as, yeah.
Yeah, that are,
Missing the word are.
this, are. See what he's saying?
Okay, on page 95. There's an annual progress reporting. But it mentions that the annual progress reporting will be done to a board of directors. So is this group envisioning some other group, or should that say city council?
That should say city council.
So there really isn't a new board meeting, okay. On page 97, I noticed you guys had assigned dollar amounts for different things, which makes sense to me. But
Roughly,
LHC, yeah, it's kind of yellow. But the LHC 3C didn't have a dollar amount. I didn't know if that was something you're supposed to discuss tonight, or that just you didn't type a dollar amount.
We did not type a dollar amount.
Okay.
Good catch.
And then on page 102, there's a number of different goals that are listed there, and some of those sound interesting. But a couple that I wondered about, one, is there a category that says enhance on there on page 102? Maybe.
To enhance the quality of life.
Yeah.
It's on board.
Personal.
Yeah, one of the things I wondered about was, should we be tracking the complaints to our SPR vendor? And using that as one of our milestones, because if we, if we have the right, trash compliance and parking compliance and all those things are stocking, you expect our complaints per rental unit to go down over time. So I feel like that would be, something worthwhile to at least discuss tonight is the enhance. Should that be something to think about too? It says code violation in my time. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but the number of complaints people are calling out on SDRs would be something they're tracking. And then under the responsible category, something I thought might be worth discussing tonight is, do we need to have some sort of metric on police citations? One of the things that we've heard in different open sessions is, we gotta make sure we enforce all these rules that are out there, but we don't have a metric that says we're enforcing any of the rules we're putting out there. So if we have the complaints to the vendor, the SDR vendor, and we have the police citations, that at least helps us understand, over time, are things getting better or worse, different, whatever.
Got your police water and jetty.
I read that every week.
It's good.
I make it.
It's pretty probably.
Very amusing.
Thank you, Mal. Anyway, I think those are two items I would put forward as items to discuss, since that's something that's been raised a number of times in the open meeting.
I don't know why we couldn't add those under the performance measures and see what sticks. I mean, see if,
Will certainly tell you whether what you're doing is working or not.
yeah. Does anybody have a problem adding those under the performance measure on page 102?
How do you get what are the words, read it.
The two I have written down here are the police citation, monitoring the police citations, and kind of connect that with the complaints per STR vendor or something like that.
Well, the vendor, the city hired a vendor to take complaints, but
Yeah.
maybe we just say the city, the city changed that. But, complaints to, SDR complaints to the city per number of rentals, right? Because our rentals keep growing, so you would want to have just the absolute whatever percentage.
But that would be a metric that could be measured.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
the city's tracking those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's some of the quality of life for residents, I think, is, how often are these, SPR complaints happen? I know in my neighborhood, we had a flurry of SPR complaints from people, mainly people renting next to other people who were doing things. And the city came out and wrote a bunch of $500 tickets. And a lot of those complaints have stopped all of a sudden. So I think that's been effective, at least in my neighborhood. As I recall, I think if you get 3 complaints, you get your license pulled, is that the thing? Yes. So after a couple of complaints, I noticed the SPR folks, that people were renting, taking great rentals.
I didn't see any disagreement to add those, we'll add them, somebody says, no.
And Dan, that is my list.
Listen, you convinced me by catching used to used, used for, you convinced me you did read it. I believe you. But I appreciate that, we sincerely do, appreciate somebody, sometimes we're so close to it that we miss stuff. And we appreciate others looking at it, and it makes it better document.
So I'll finish my time by saying, I really like the finished product, and I think once we get it out to people, I think they're gonna like it.
So on your comments,
Issues that they're-
other ones, we got those are all easy fixes. What we need to do is get a new, 111-day chart, whatever we call the 111-day chart,
Seasonal.
seasonal chart.
I've got a comment regarding that, actually, on page 12.
Yes, sir.
There's another figure that they use for person per household in each season. So page 12. Second column, first paragraph. It says,
It's calling it a 4 for council.
yeah, assuming all housing units are occupied at peak season and a higher average persons per household, 4.0. To account for more families on vacation, the population of in Port Aransas housing units would be about 19,000.
Where did the board come?
That's not consistent with the chart, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a,
I'm just wondering,
yeah.
who picked four? I didn't want to say native before.
So,
They're on a lot, they're on the studios and all.
yeah, and they
Oh,
go
there.
to the hotel rooms or things is free.
That was before we had the real numbers. But now we'll have a real number. So good catch. We'll change that to the number we have now, that we get.
Yeah.
But we didn't have one.
Yeah.
So Erica made that up.
I mean, it's probably close.
But yes,
Though, is it's only the food area.
do you under the
That's the problem. There's not very many studio apartments. They're all big houses.
A lot of STRs are considered in that mixed use area, so.
Yeah. I don't know exactly.
I have some comments.
Well, yeah. Well, let's close this out and then get married.
What do you use?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, Mary, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. Actually, in reading through it, I did try to read every word, but skimmed a little bit of it. There are some typos in it throughout that I noticed. I didn't write them all down, but just the very first one that occurred to me is on page 4, and they're talking about the Karankawa Indians. It's got an S on it that's not appropriate. It's calling it the Karankawas Indians.
Golly.
So that's an example of a typo.
Well, we got, let's get those cleaned up. Do you want to go now, give them to us, or do you want to just?
I didn't write them all down. I just noticed that there were quite a few.
What do you want to send them an email or give it to us?
I can read it again. I'm an editor.
Where did that come from? It
This,
looks like it's some scanned page or something.
I mean, if you're talking about the Karankawas,
Did
then
it come
that's
from the
correct, but if
museum?
you're saying the Karankawa Indians, it doesn't have an S on it. Anyway, that's me, that's just a minor thing.
We're striving for
Right.
perfection,
Right. I'll try to find the other one. It's in an email.
please.
I did notice a few,
Okay.
but,
I know, it's not.
a couple of other comments. Let's see, on page 40. This is, about the lighting regulations and dark sky program. And, it does specifically mention here. Okay, it says light pollution has detrimental impact on many types of wildlife, particularly sea turtles, whose hatchlings can be confused, etc. But I think we really should mention that Port Aransas is on the central flyway, the migratory flyway, and all the lights disturb the birds in migration. So it's not just the sea turtles.
It's more than that.
That's very significant.
Agreed.
The migratory flyway is very significant for Aransas. That's why we have all these birds that come and go.
Central Migratory Flyway.
We're on the central flyway. There's four, I think, that go down to North America. I would love to. I can't even believe it. In fact, I'm gonna talk to the city about it. I think it's headed way.
His neighbors on both sides.
We're down in there.
Everyone see you.
I know.
Yeah, the typo is on the Indians, it's not our fault, it's on the city's website that way, so
Okay,
we're not, so the consultants are totally to blame on that.
okay, so the flyway,
I do just think that that kind of counteracts to find that the more lights there are, the less crime we have in the area. So
Yes,
I think if that's gonna be a deal, it still needs to be, you know, a little more regulated to make sure that you don't just decide what you can and what something, or because something else. So. that's fine.
well, actually, other cities have addressed it. There's a lot of research on it. Use of motion detector, lights for houses, you know, so that if somebody walks by, the lights will come on, but they don't just stay on all night long or all day long, 365 days a year. And we have an awful lot of, the short-term rentals just keep their lights on all the time. All the time, whether there's anybody there or not. So we just have a huge amount of light that's not even necessary in Port Aransas.
There are a lot of towns that have lower lighting type ordinances, it's totally doable. We even have stuff in the current code that if it were, if people would really, I don't know, if it were enforced more than.
Aren't they the shield?
There are ways to.
Aren't they supposed to be shielded from the lights? Is that in the code?
No, there's, if you have lights, certain lights, there's certain, it depends on what category it is, they have to be like downward refracting lights, so it just depends.
And it just seems like in the STR explosion, people just put up whatever lights they wanted to. I mean, that's the way it is around me. There's some really bright ones that are just on all the time.
Yeah,
They're not supposed to go up in the air. It's not supposed to shine.
No.
It would take, yeah, but it would take a neighbor to complain about that light, not the guy who buy houses.
I'm gonna go to the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, he knows, there's one in the neighborhood, I mean, it lights up the whole neighborhood. Right. But it, and they complain to me, yeah. I mean, they're one of people. Behind them, so.
So for the complaint, to get that, we gotta be able to see the filament from your yard. Yeah.
The filament.
The filament.
The binoculars.
all right, so since I'm the chairman,
Bring it in.
since I'm the chairman, we're gonna move on. I know I'm not very good, but we're gonna add the central flyway comment. Otherwise, then we're gonna say that's good, okay?
All right, and then on page 45. I will once again make my comments about the new marina. I don't really think it's an accurate statement about what the 2014 market study showed. It says that it confirmed market demand for both slip and dry stack boat storage in the area. But I think actually it found that there wasn't a demand at that time for slips, except for very large vessels. And then maybe dry storage in the future. So I just don't really think that's an accurate statement of what the 2014 study showed. And then.
So you're saying, Mary, that the last, in that paragraph, the last sentence is not.
It's not really accurate, I don't think. I've read that study.
I'm gonna have to defer to you or somebody else, because I don't remember.
I can read it again and see what it actually said.
Can we get a, yeah, maybe. Go through the study. Games are.
it's a pretty old study too. You know,
Yeah.
so,
So should it,
So you can't get a boat storage in unless you wanna wait for. 3 or 4 months, so. I do know that.
so to move this on, should we remove that last sentence?
No, I'm gonna verify that.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you can read the report. It says what
Okay,
it
all right.
says, yeah. I'll read it, I'll
But we're
look
gonna
at it.
put a star there and say to be verified.
And then, well, in the public, hearing that we had, there was a substantial amount of very negative comment about the new marina in Charles Pasture. And I just feel like we're just ignoring it. We're not addressing it at all. I went through and counted them all up. I sent an email to Erica about, you know, all of the negative comments. And so some of it was just, no, don't want it there in Charlie's Pasture. And other of it was, people just had no idea the city was even contemplating that. And so, I think at least we need to, instead of just saying, we're doing this, and this is the way it is, that maybe there needs to be some further exploration of citizen input on that.
I mean, I feel like there has been over the past couple of decades, I mean, it's been pretty. It's not a secret that the city has been looking to develop a marina.
I'm not saying it's a secret, I'm just not sure that people know exactly what's being proposed. And there also are just simply a lot of people who are against it.
I don't think we're saying we're building it.
Yeah.
We're saying if they're gonna build it, this is probably where it's gonna be.
Well, let's look, I mean,
Well, it's pretty definite,
I mean-
I don't know,
but this is not
about, you know.
Everything not gonna happen.
Boundary and stuff. And maybe as part of those studies, you know, it could be to gauge citizen input on that.
okay, but we say there's 7 steps in here. And so that somebody's gotta make a decision, and either it's in the plan or not. And so we put it in the plan, and then it says these 7 things we're gonna do. We're gonna do a boundary and topographic study. We're gonna study the market study to identify the program for commercial marina amenity leases. We're gonna do a detailed master plan. We're gonna do a phasing strategy. We're gonna do a financial analysis. We're gonna begin Army Corps of Engineers permit extension process.
It's already started, it's almost finished.
Okay, so it just says the recommendation in here is to do those things. Now, the results of those things
Could say we don't do it.
say we don't do it. I mean, but I think somewhere we gotta make a statement that in this plan, we have a plan for a marina in this area. But it also says we gotta do these 7 things to see if we can do it. If we can do it, right?
I think it's better to address it, saying, look, if we're gonna do one, here's where it's gonna be, and these are the steps we're gonna follow to make it happen. Not saying it's gonna happen, but if it does, this is what we're gonna do.
But
Yeah, I think just for now, we're gonna leave it in.
it's
And
here.
we'll leave it up to council whether or not they want it or not, but for now, just leave it in.
I would think that it's, you know, obviously it's something that has been looked at for a long time. And there are plans about it, studies about it. But I think, maybe the way it's stated, it's almost like a fait accompli in that location. The way it's presented here, is that this is what we're gonna do, and this is where we're gonna do it. Here's the pictures, here's the maps, and, you know. So, I don't know, that is my comment. There was a lot of negative comment at the public hearing. Are we just gonna ignore it?
Well, that happens a lot.
Well, you can bring it up to council when they approve the document.
So anyway, that is.
All right, well, so it'll roll this way though to the open house and see what else is said about it. It'll be in a document rather than, it was generalized in the last one, that's what the preliminary was. But now here it is, and so we'll see how that happens. See what happens.
I just think, you know, if you're gonna have public hearings, you ought to at least give a little credit to what the people said. You know, take-
Well, these aren't quite public hearings. We're gonna have those later on.
I mean, you know,
But, they're a little less formal and, you know, we've called them open houses, but We've tried to make it more of a comforting thing for people to speak rather than making them do a formal public hearing, but those are to come. I don't know how else to test the water than to formally put it in here like this. It doesn't fly, but it's in here for people to react to. At least they have something in writing to react to. Gotta give it that.
And those are my comments on it, just that there was a lot of negative comment about it. A lot of questions about it, and it's just particularly in that location. And I think those were, let's see. I guess on page 39, I'm talking about. Just talking about things the court is doing.
Which one, Mary?
Let's see, I'm looking here.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Let's see one.
It's LHC 1C. Continue to monitor and communicate with industrial users in the region, and that's all fine and good. The last sentence says the city should work with these users to reach compromise solutions whenever possible. But to me, and I feel like we can make a stronger statement that, you know, if there's something the court is proposing that we consider to be an existential threat for Aransas tourism, then rather than, you know, monitoring and trying to find possible solutions, shouldn't we be considering at least participating in some of the litigation and legislative work that's being done?
Isn't that what the last line essentially said? We work with them to reach compromise solution. I mean, I don't.
Well, we're not really working with the court when
The
we
problem with
file a
putting
lawsuit
in,
against
the
them.
problem with putting in, you know, harder stance in this is they are partners in the community. We have to work with them. So we don't want to alienate them by putting in a stance that's saying we're going to fight you on everything we do.
And I'm not
You don't have to
suggesting
say
that,
that.
I'm just saying that's a bit soft for what I hear
Yeah, I
people
don't think
in
I read
Aransas saying about.
I would say we should encourage them to protect our vital surrounding marine environment or something. So rather than say tolerance, you need to, because believe me, they're not gonna be compromising with us anyway. They mentioned it clear.
They say what they want to do,
We don't need to be.
and there's really no compromise there. We either say yes or we go along with it. We might try to reach some compromise, but I don't know. I just thought it was a little soft compared to what most people I know for Aransas feel about that issue.
I agree, I don't like.
Yeah.
Maybe say, well,
Voters compromise.
good for it.
Okay, there was a.
Or maybe the city should explore
That they
solutions.
don't need. more.
What did you just, what did you say that we could put in there, maybe that was an alternative?
Just direct the
I
compromise.
think it's, yeah.
Yeah,
What you just reach solution whenever possible.
Yeah, you did there. And they put it out there and it's on the court's agenda tomorrow, and that what they're saying for the courthouse is, corporates is saying, we will not endorse, we do not support any legislation that will give the court any more control or power over commercial and blah, blah, blah. They're putting it out there. They're not necessarily.
I'm not saying we need to say something really harsh and definitive, but
that's what she read on.
it should be more like exploring solutions, which could be legislated for.
Yeah.
The promote and protect Port Aransas.
To reach solutions that protect. That what?
I put promote and protect Port A.
I like.
As part of what sentence, what, how does the whole sentence read now?
And the marine environment. If you don't mind, I would like to hear marine environment come out.
Well, I just said change it, that it would say that reach solutions that, promote and protect Port A.
What, the city should work with these users to do that? Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure what sentence you're,
Yes.
read the whole
I
sentence.
was,
See the one that she has highlighted up there, says compromise, that's the sentence they're talking about, the same one you mentioned.
yeah,
Okay,
Replace compromise.
The
and we were moving compromise.
Read what the new words would be, and
Well, and I'm just not sure that working with them necessarily is, I mean, yes, we can try to work with them, but they're pretty, one-way street.
Okay, if we don't work with them, what are we gonna do?
We're gonna get one-way street.
Exactly.
Well,
So, I mean,
I'm just saying that we should oppose those things that, they
well, we
do.
don't know if we wanna oppose every single thing.
Well, I'm not saying we should oppose. it.
Well, I think in a public document, to give it credibility, I think if you wanna say the city should work with these users to, reach solutions whenever possible that promote and protect Port A would be a good sentence to put in there. There you go, to replace it.
Okay.
Stronger than what you have, stronger than what's there, but not quite as strong as probably what you want, Mary, but.
Yeah, I
that's pretty- okay.
understand. I guess I would just say the city should work toward solutions that
Right.
protect. And whether with them or otherwise.
So I just wanna ask Mary, but if notwithstanding the comments you made and the typos and your comments so noted on the marina, other than that, do you think that I'm really trying to get something done here tonight. Do you think that it would be okay, or you think we could go to open house in February with this document?
Well, I think the document, overall is a good document. It addresses a lot of things. I'd like to see maybe some more specific things addressing golf carts and STRs. Because those are the number two, 1 and 2 of everybody's concern. But those are kind of open for discussion. I would take exception to the thing about the marina, because I think it's set forth as a complete here with
We have
maps
noted
showing
that.
the location. So other than that, though,
I appreciate your honesty and frankness on those positions. I do. So, anybody else have any comments or things that we could do to make it better? Got a little cleanup to do and some typos.
I think I found another data error, actually, on page 18.
Okay,
So I'm going back to all the housing one, I remember the check numbers. You have, as shown in figure 15, only 44% of Puerto Rico's housing units are regularly occupied, but in the table on page 37 is 41.2%. Just a little mismatch.
Sorry, which page is the first?
18. Yeah. Second paragraph.
basically just need to get
For the figure as well.
all of those numbers the same. from
Yeah,
my
it's
family.
just little stuff, yeah.
Yeah, all right, we'll have to, I'll review all of them. We updated all of the numbers at one point because the more recent census data
Okay,
came out.
so it's either 44 or 41.
yeah.
Yeah, good point. I will double check all of this.
And if somebody finds something else that we didn't talk about, email them to Erica and we'll try to add those in there. But here's the magic question for this evening. There's no other comments. If we were to make and address these changes that we've talked about, and we can send back out a new document with the changes in the 111-day chart, seasonal chart, etc. Can we plan to put this on the website after the first of the year and start trying to schedule an open house for February? Is the committee agreeable to that? Now, that doesn't mean we're approving it, but somehow we gotta get something, and I don't want it to be a surprise to the committee, but we gotta have something to go And it's only fair to ask y'all's opinion about, is it ready to go public? So that's what we're asking. Not asking you to approve it tonight, but by asking you if it's a public review draft, in a way, we're asking you if it's in the ballpark and if it's what we want the public to react to.
I vote yes. And are they gonna get the entire document?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're trying to do.
Not just bullet points.
No, the bullet points were last time.
Right,
And then,
yeah, I vote yes, get the whole document to the public.
I second that.
Yeah.
Was so.
when the housekeeping so noted.
The bulk of it is.
And Mary's,
I am so noted.
you know what, I'm forcing you to vote, but we know where you stand, but you also have been very diligent about, reading and providing input on all the other matters as well, so.
I think it's a good document overall. I just think. There's some
Are we
things-
ready to go or not? In your opinion, well, you can not agree with the other, but
No, I think it is because the things that I'm saying, some of my biggest concerns are not going to change, obviously. I've said on every single meeting, they were said at the open house by people other than me. And so that's not gonna change, so I'm not gonna, sync the document over that. I will express to people, I will point it out to them that that's in there and that they should, if they have a problem with that, that will be the time to say we don't want a marina in Charlie's pasture.
And it could change, right, between the open house and the final document.
absolutely, I mean, that's the whole deal of it, it's not the public hearing. Hadn't gone to P and Z, hadn't gone to council, even though some of those members have been in attendance. So, sure, it could change, absolutely.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So the open house 3 is the arrow that's up there. And that's when we meet together like we have on the other one.
Yeah, what
So
we
we
would,
send the document out on the first week of January. That's,
whenever we get it tied up,
and then, how can people that are reading the document respond to the document online? So that at the open house, it's not just the, like we've done the others, they just write on the board or whatever, but it might be interesting to have the citizens have a more comprehensive way of providing feedback to the written document, because it is 100 pages long, it's voluminous. And we don't want someone at the meeting raising their hand like I do and say, yes, I have my 300 points now that I'm to talk through. So it'd be better if they had, the citizens had an outlet for that between January and whenever the February meeting.
I think that is a great point, and we'll have the similar opportunities, same as we've done before, for the in-person and the online activities, and that's somewhat a question for you guys about is there any specific community input that we need? So we have a couple different options on how we could present the information. Either way, we would make the full document available to everyone, so they can look at the whole thing and read it as much as they would like, but most people probably aren't going to do that. So we'll show them the highlights and have the supporting information for them. For the online reviews, there's software that can be used where the entire document's available and the public can post comments in the document all as they go through it. So that's an option if we want to invite comment that's that specific, and we think that a lot of people are going to participate in that way. Alternatively, they would just be able to send their comments and those their page numbers. If they did have 300 comments, we'd be happy to talk to them. So that's a little bit of a question for you guys. Are there specific topics that we think that we might need input from that? It sounds like the marina is probably one of those items that we need to make sure that when we're highlighting what are some of the big recommendations in here and getting their feedback on those things.
I guess my way of thinking about it here is we've had community input from the get-go. So I don't want to fumble the ball on the 1 yard line. I'd rather let everybody read the whole document, and some people are going to read nothing. Some people are gonna read every word, some people are gonna skip every paragraph, but give everybody a chance to read everything. And give them a chance to comment on everything. And then, it's been a completely open process. I think it'd be interesting though, if you get the document out the first week of January. And we have an online comment period. Whatever, I don't know what the norm of that can be, 2 or 3 weeks, I guess. And it's a little bit of a long document. But have a few week period, and then those comments maybe could be funneled back. For us to see before the open house meeting. Because maybe there's things that people raise and we go, that's a damn good idea, we should have thought of that. Or, yeah, that didn't word it right, we need to change that because we're getting a lot of comments where people are alarmed about. Like that one comment I was said earlier on my comment, people are getting alarmed on it because they don't have, 1 year context of what that meant, they're just
Right.
reacting.
They look at that and the sidewalks, yeah.
So I think it'd be interesting to maybe for us to see that and then see, is there changes that need to happen before those joint workshops with the planning and zoning and the city that y'all are going to do. We're not going to be involved in that. CPAC, but y'all are going to do, because there might be some other value in feedback.
So we usually try to, and we could maybe do something different, but we usually try to overlap when the online one happens with the in-person one happens for a couple of reasons. One, so whenever we make the announcement that it's going out in a newspaper, and however we can advertise that, hey, there's a way you can already participate right now, it's already launched. And also there's going to be a meeting next week or whenever it is, to come and participate in person. And then also people who go to that meeting and then they think, well, my friends didn't hear on this, how can they participate? So there's still some time afterwards where they can share it. So people can keep participating. But as far as reviewing their input and making adjustments for that, this joint workshop, a lot of times we do that with the CPAC invited. So it would be the city council, planning and zoning commission, and CPAC, so often welcome to attend and participate in that, hey, that's different than what we thought whenever we were talking about this,
Right.
participating in that discussion. So that would still be happening ahead of when the actual formal public hearing would be happening. So there is
What is a public hearing? Exactly.
we don't have the date for that specifically yet. We're looking at April.
I mean, what would that be? Everybody comes and.
Yeah, that would be, by law, we have to have. The open houses and things like that aren't required by law. But the public hearing is, and that would be a public hearing that the city council holds. And we also, sometimes we do a joint public hearing with P and Z. So the P and Z hears the same testimony that the council hears. So, but we do have to have, the council does have to have a public hearing, and that's when that would be. So, but the idea is that when we get to that public hearing, we think it's in the best interest of the city to at least have a lot of these issues vetted. In other words, they appointed the committee, hired us, they appointed y'all to do the heavy lifting on the draft. And I think we have. The heavy lifting has been heavier in some topics than others, but I think we did what we were charged to do. They said, okay, you bring the document forward, but now they have to decide. And so as they decide, it's worthy to have you there as well, so that somebody can ask, well, what was the thinking on this? And rather us doing it, maybe one of y'all could answer that. You say, here's what we were thinking when we talked about the chart and the 111 days. Maybe, we could probably answer that too. But so the idea is that before we get to the public hearing, we would have at least discussed and vetted these different things, and that maybe most things are just, agreed upon, not decided, but most of the things are agreed on. Maybe there's some that are not, but
Been agreed on by
you all, and at least we have heard what the public is said about them.
So,
And then. Yeah, Mary, yes, ma'am.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying, I would like what Erica was saying, to have some sort of overview, you know, of this plan includes the new marina, it includes the new nodes, you know, it includes.
There's
you know,
probably 5 or
possible-
6 big things.
Yeah,
5 or
the
6
big things
yeah.
that, because, you know, it's a bit of a chore to read this whole document for us even, and it's our job. And there's just a lot of people aren't gonna read this, they don't have time to read this and try to really understand it, so. I think we should highlight for the public. In the newspaper article or wherever, you know, here are some big things, you know, the big changes, big additions, whatever. That's what I think.
I feel like we're missing one meeting here. Because if we're gonna let the big document out to the public, I hope people read it, maybe they don't. So I hope they read it, I think many people will. And I feel like we need to get the input from that reading of the public. And see if there's any final changes that should be made before an open house. And before the joint meeting,
No.
and before the public hearing.
Maybe not before the open. just-
Yeah, no, you mean after the open house?
Yeah.
Yes, after.
You said before the open house.
After the.
No, you meant after the open house.
After the written comments, yeah.
Right.
We've gotten good feedback, I've got my notes here, we've got good feedback on every wave of these things. But you have to remember, the feedback we had, we put a thing up and there were 5 bullet points. And people said, yay or
Yeah,
yay.
right,
That's not the same as having the words.
right, I mean,
Right, and I don't think the open house is sufficient to say, here's this 102-page document. What do you think? And I mean, people are gonna have to internalize that a little bit. And my suspicion is we'll get a lot of ideas. You know, in January up to whenever the open house date is.
I think you're an odd.
At least you are.
Yeah.
Well, I think people are gonna read it.
It's intensive use.
Conceptually, rather than here, read this 102-page document,
They would have been.
then you might get more comment.
But if you get 200 people to read it, and that's probably more than, you know, but if you got 100, 200 people reading it, to me, that would be valuable.
And when that, I'm guessing at the workshop, is, maybe I'm not sure with that,
well,
is that where?
what we would do is say, okay, here's the draft that the steering committee, CPAC committee. Authorized or recommended, or whatever word we feel comfortable with, you go to the open house. So we went to the open house and then we, Erica did a really good job, we summarized the 5 or whatever big things is, yeah. No, she
Yeah.
does, she does, she will. And so we do that, and then after that, we have what we have. I mean, we have comments or whatever, and then what we do is say to, this is not the public hearing, this is a workshop. And we say, look, here's what we've heard. Here's what the committee said, and by the way, here they are right here, sitting right here. And then here's what we heard at the open house, and what do we want to change?
So in the joint workshop, that's the council. You
Oh,
take
yeah.
the open, you take the feedback from the open house and written comments. And you take the 102-page document, you give that to council.
And P and Z.
And it's easy. And you give that to them and say, y'all figure it out. Here's the comments and here's the document, go figure it out.
Well, we try to help them that and say, okay, here,
That's fine, I got it.
you know, and say,
We don't need to meet again, that's fine, as long as somebody's gonna take the last version of the public comments and do something with it, then if that's the council doing that, that's fine.
But wait, the public would be at such a meeting. If it's the full county, if it's a forum, then the public can attend.
well, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
So
So,
I guess my
but,
thinking, Kat, was that this last, the last.
You need to.
You're saying.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not bringing it to us one more time.
Well, I don't mean to bring it back to us, but that's okay, as long as somebody takes the last wave of. Of citizen comments and does something.
There's two things that can happen though.
We can say this committee, you've got P and Z plus you've got.
We could take it back, if we think there's a lot of work to be done, we could take it back to you. We also had councils, not talking here, but we've also had council saying, look, we'd like to send this back to the committee and let them address these three things. And y'all bring back, so that could happen. But I think we've got to somehow get this to the plate of the plates of P and Z council, since they're gonna be the enforcers of it. They're gonna be the users of it and the enforcers of it. So we take our best work here, we take it to the public and they comment on it. And a lot of places don't do this, they just have the public hearing and all this is done at the public hearing. But in our due diligence, we're thinking that this is a way really to be inclusive, capture our best chance at public input on this. So we go to the open house and then we have all those documents, all those things documented. And then we go to our workshop, and that's what it is. A workshop is not, it's not on the agenda to approve it. It's on the agenda to say, okay, here's what we have, and here's what we heard.
That's what the council.
The council can decide we need more, and we're ready to address this, or we're ready to put it on our agendas to approve, or whatever the direction is to us. That's what we'll do. Yes. But that gets it onto their plate, so they have, because really, as a whole, they haven't had a chance to be involved on it. Other than, attend the meetings here, but the entire council hasn't seen it, neither has the entire P and Z. But that's our goal, is to get it in front of them to have them act to it, because we want the P and Z to recommend it.
Right, I guess I understand it differently now, they're going to reconcile the final citizen comments.
Unless they feel,
Before it goes to public hearing, that's fine, as long as
yes,
somebody's
yes,
doing that.
yes, unless they feel like y'all need to do more work.
Sounds good to me. Sounds a good plan.
Okay, so we're gonna make these changes, or it might be that Erica makes these changes. And then we're gonna send the document back out to you all. And then, if we don't get any, corrections, then we're gonna post it on the website with, conceptual, big picture, big items. And, set it up however, we've had direction on setting it up so they can provide comments on the document. And then
Can
we'll,
I provide a comment on these dates?
absolutely.
February, there's a holiday in there. In March, there's also a student holiday in there.
Well, look,
If you're looking for maximum participation, I would not do it over President's Day weekend or during spring break.
all right, so if you had
Definitely.
any recommendations in February, what?
Because all the kids have a 4-day weekend, President's Day, so.
Okay, so maybe, not the middle of the month. That's right.
Definitely not for March. After spring break, it is this page before.
Yeah. First in March.
So, but the open house is okay for February, if we just do it at the end of February, maybe?
I know those are the kids in there over that long weekend, it's, people go out of town and do stuff together.
And that's over the President's Day,
It's around the 14th.
February 20th,
February 20th.
Oh, it's a little later.
So we will avoid.
And definitely avoid spring break.
It's when spring break.
I
Here,
haven't looked
usually
it
like
up.
10
No,
days.
it's always the week that includes, St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
The 13th through the 17th is 4 days in most of the colleges.
Sorry, I didn't mean to turn that into a mess, I'm just thinking about.
No,
My wife's playing with the kids.
well, now would be a time to start planting the seed on when we're gonna do this.
Where's the ending word?
At the end of March. Okay. Because David's gonna have to do an FYI to the council and P and Z. Thank you all for your input. Anything else this evening?
Happy birthday, Mary.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I deserve a gold star for being here today and for reading this all day.
Yes, you do.
Oh, thank you.
No matter what the issue and your position on it, I wish we had, 10 times, 10 Marys.
Right. That might be a problem.
People that, I mean, isn't that how this country works? I mean,
Yeah.
we don't get all have the same opinions, otherwise it wouldn't be.
Exactly right.
I mean,
That's what it's for, the meetings are for that, right?
we got,
Yeah.
but at least we can sort this out in Port Aransas, Texas, and we don't have to let the legislator or the federal government sort it out. At least that's what I like. 'Cause at least this is one thing that's still local. You know, that the government hadn't taken it out of our hands. We can still sort this out here.
Just because I don't know, if we built a marina, would it still be under the port's control? Okay, because right now, they have threatened to take ours away from us. I did, to kind of give back, but if we built another one, it would actually be ours. The port couldn't take it from us.
That's right.
Look at that's all more.
However, they could give you grief on the channel and stuff, that shit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, they'll make it very.
They will get very yes.
We work with the federal government a lot. We talk about, you will see something that we try to build a lake.
Yeah. I mean.
We're building two, I stand build bridge. And
That's the thing, is that it's not an automatic solution to the core problem, just to build.
It took the curve to be that, you know, they threatened to build, but
You make a motion to adjourn.
the chairman would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I just go really.
Thank you all, and all have a good holiday and Christmas.
You say you. Oh, Merry Christmas. It's good to see you.
Merry Christmas. Yes.
then you too.